What's going on, everybody? I'm Nick Powles, publisher of 1851franchise.com. And just like previous webinars that we've done and discussions, I'm joined by the team at IWG. We're going to break into what the story is. But anybody who's watching live, which we can see the numbers just piling in, know that the first half of this is storytelling in that we're going to understand the partner journey. And the second half, the back half, is going to be focused on answering any questions that come up. So go ahead and fill up your comments, no matter what tool you're watching this on. We'll make sure we get those questions addressed. Just like all of our previous ones, I want Wayne to kick us off with kind of state of the union. What's the update on the brand? Where do we stand today as it relates to partnership growth? Wayne, you want to give an opening statement?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thanks, Nick. And welcome to all of our partners and potential partners throughout North America. It's wonderful having each of you on the call today. I promise I'll try to keep it brief. Where we sit today, the shift continues to be extraordinary. Absolutely, with all that we're seeing from the data, as well as the demand that continues to increase within our organization from clients looking for a great workspace. We are truly in, I think, the biggest structural shift that the commercial real estate industry has seen. And it is not linked to a financial period. It's not linked to an economic shift. It is a shift in how, when, where, why, and what people call work. And the ability to work ubiquitously, flexibly, and to move away from one centric work environment, utilizing workspace across a network, accessible as simply as clicking on an app like we do today to find cafes, restaurants, and hotels. That future is now. Quick update on the real estate industry. As we talked last month, we've hit record vacancy levels throughout the US, in Canada, frankly, around the world. We're now pushing north of 18% vacancy here across the country in the US, as well as in Canada. Those numbers are up from as low as 5% vacancy as recently as 2019. So the numbers continue to grow extraordinarily quickly. That doesn't include what we call shadow vacancy, and that's space that's sitting idle and empty that is currently under lease by a tenant, but frankly is just being unutilized, completely unutilized or underutilized. So vacancy rates continue to grow. The shift in commercial real estate is remarkable from an investment perspective. We know that we have roughly $4 trillion of debt maturities coming up over the next 3 years. There will continue to be a sizable shift, not just in the industry, but also how cities function. So this presents a number of significant realities that I think investors, governments, institutional developers, cities are all grappling to understand. Recent usability numbers of commercial real estate came out 2 weeks ago, which actually demonstrated data showing that usage of space in office space is dropping across the core cities in the US. So it hit a peak post-pandemic of 54%. And that number is related to the amount of space that is currently being actively occupied versus pre-pandemic. So versus 2019, early 2020. So the utilization rate of office space has improved it's up to 54% of where we were pre-pandemic, but that peaked in June and is now retreating back to 46%. So, and that's space that just is currently used versus where we were back in the pandemic. So usability is declining. Hybrid and flex continue to accelerate. 88% of companies have now instituted hybrid working policies and guidelines for their organization. What does that mean? It means a number of things. One, it means that companies are completely shifting how they look at commercial real estate. Companies are moving away from long-term leases. They're moving away from investing millions of dollars of capital across a large portfolio of space. And they're looking to rationalize because they're looking to support how people want to work in the future. And frankly, what people are saying is work should be purpose-driven, place should be ubiquitous, and on top of that, people are utilizing space close to home. The biggest misnomer we're seeing is hybrid work means home-based working. It's not accurate. So what we're seeing in our data is that only 11% of workers actually want to work from home 5 days a week. What people are looking for is to eliminate an unnecessary, unproductive, costly commute. The commute is the biggest issue. People want the ability to walk, to ride their bike, to take a short, quick transit ride within 5 to 15 minutes and be able to access great workspace. And they want to work at various places depending on what's required of them each and every day. So those fundamental changes are happening. Now, while that's happening, for all of our investors on the call today, you may have seen we've released our first half 2023 numbers. And the numbers demonstrate, I think, very positive trends for the organization, and also what is taking place within the flexible workspace industry at IWG and the needs from our.
Wayne got cut off. We'll let him come back in a second. So let me shift it over to Raymond and Corey. But before I do that, Jeff, frame the relationship. How do you form a relationship with these guys? And then we're going to go through what their IWG story is. Jeff, did you hear that?
Absolutely. So yeah, I had the opportunity. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff. Looks like Jeff's having technical difficulties as well. Let's Raymond and Corey, I'll let you guys take it away. Let's go through the story. Whoever wants to start with this first. How do you even get into this space? And then secondly, how do you find IWG in that process?
Sure. I'll start, and I'll just tell my unique experience of how IWG found its way into my professional life. Yeah. I spent all my 20s in the Bay Area. I went to school in Silicon Valley and worked for Wells Fargo. I was part of their financial analyst program, went to their credit training management program, and I knew that I didn't want to be a banker my whole life. I really liked real estate. Worked with a lot of developers and high net worth individuals at my time in the Palo Alto Regional Commercial Bank. So I tailored my professional trajectory to complement kind of this real estate end goal. And I joined in their commercial real estate group in San Francisco in what is called the REMAG group, or their REO group. Their high risk group, commercial loans, balance sheet loans that are secured by commercial real estate that have either defaulted or about to default. So I got my chops there, and then I moved back to my hometown of San Antonio, Texas, to partner with someone I've known my whole life, who's a local real estate investor, has a portfolio of office and retail. And during that process, we get calls or emails every day, a dozen a week at least, asking, if we want to sell a property, or can we take a look at this, or you want some software to use. So we got an email from the regional salesperson at IWG, and I got a phone. I had scheduled a phone call with her. I think this was March of last year, and I just heard the story. And this was my first introduction to IWG, the kind of global corporation. I knew some of their independent brands quite well. I've passed by probably 1,000 Regises and Spaces throughout my time, domestically, internationally, and there was a nice presence in the Bay Area. So I was familiar with their offering, and this new partnership agreement was something that I thought was really quite interesting. But I talked to the landlord and I kind of did my own due diligence, and I knew the market intimately, and I didn't think it was a good fit for this specific location. I just didn't believe I didn't believe in the sub market, not necessarily, not IWG. So I had two locations that I thought would be perfect, and one of them is where we eventually built out our a center that opened in April of this year, and it is a full floor, nearly 15,000 square foot plate, located right off of major interstates and highways near the airport in San Antonio. And so then we got, then the journey took place, and we signed the agreement, I think, on January 31st. So, we took a long time, and I'll give the woman I was working with and Jeff a whole lot of credit, and the whole team for their patience with us as we figured our stuff out. And we were creative in how we structured it, because it had to make sense for us. I'll say us as kind of the operator, the landlord, and our partner IWG. And as part of that process, I currently live on the West Coast, so I'm now out of state, but I still have heavy ties to San Antonio. But I know I can't. This is going to be a very labor-intensive endeavor. At the beginning, it's front-loaded, and I knew that, so I couldn't do it without a partner. And my brother Raymond, it seemed to be like the perfect partner. He's got a skill set that is perfect for what he eventually contributed to the project, which was he's the man on the ground managing the process, the people, and I'm the guy behind the desk, making sure that the numbers are right and the agreement is formalized and we're going according to plan. So that's kind of the short, long version of my story. And Ray, you can maybe pick up where I left off.
Ray, take us through your story up until that conversation with Corey about how you guys are going to partner together on this property.
Sure. So just a little of my background, and as Corey alluded, like I'm heavy in operations. I have a very different career path than Corey, and in real estate in general. I started in music and creative arts as a music producer. And, almost 10 years ago, I found myself working for a music nonprofit called Notes for Notes. And what we do is we build recording studios across the country and offer free access for kids to learn, explore, and record music. But short in my time working at Notes for Notes, there was a hole and a need, and I went to business school in Silicon Valley as well. And I kind of had the skills and also the drive. I became the COO of this small music organization back in 2014. And then when I was on board, we had 6 studios in 3 different cities. And then really it was a hockey stick growth curve, and it taught me a lot. But what we were able to do is expand, and now we currently have 26 studio locations across 15 cities and 13 states. We're nationwide from New York to LA. And my job as the COO is I was in charge of fostering and building partnerships with where we would build these studios, as well as the full-on construction build-out, hiring team members, training them, and then setting up a whole management system from there on. So especially on the ground, we would go and I'd have to, again, foster these new relationships, sign contracts and agreements, because we would be building a recording studio into a multitude of spaces. And then when it actually came to building it, it was securing the contract work, but then the actual build out itself, I would be boots on the ground, pushing it to the finish line. And that means everything from essentials, paint, carpet, electrical, to the actual like full on audio equipment that can be pretty highly specific and technical. So I have this operations and this build background. Corey came to me with this opportunity that came through IWG, and it was kind of clear that neither one of this could do this on our own, nor wanted to. It would have been a much bigger task to take on by just on a solo journey. And
it was impossible.
Yeah, it's really that's true. And I was located in San Antonio, or am located in San Antonio. So it really worked out great where I could very much transfer the skills that I have and in my professional career to specifically this. Corey was awesome because he's got the real estate background. He's more focused on the numbers. He's more focused on like the actual agreements and the communication with IWG. And then when it came down to boots on the ground, pushing it through the finish line and building the whole thing, that's where I came in. So to everybody listening, I mean, I think the power of partnership is critical and key to this whole thing. You have to be a collaborator first and foremost to get into that's why you're here. You know, you'll be in partnership with IWG, but then also if you have people in your corner that can help you just facilitate multitudes of skills, it really helps. And I think it really helps to have somebody that you trust and that you can count on. And what better way than your brother? It also makes it a lot easier if you got to come down on them. It's a lot easier to have a stern conversation with your brother because in the end, it's all love.
All right, so a few follow-up questions. So Corey, back to you. You say I get 15s calls, emails a week trying to break through to you to say, I have a deal for you. How does IWG even get through there? Because you said I was willing to do a phone call. What appealed to you in the initial stages back in March of last year that said, okay, I'm willing to take this conversation over others?
So we've all seen the trends in the commercial real estate market, specifically in office. And, you know, we're seeing those effects with the portfolio I was managing. And what IWG was presenting was something new and novel, at least to me. I'd never seen something like that. And it was a opportunity that was mutually beneficial. You know, this was, we had vacant space. This, you know, they had a use for that space, and how we ended up getting there, you know, took a lot of creativity and back and forth. But what initially gave me the desire to, you know, I was excited to hear about, you know, about this potential opportunity. And so it was something new. And you know, I know we weren't going to lease 15,000 square foot single floor to, it would have been leased already. It was formerly occupied by a publicly traded restaurant group. It had great bones, but the market was shifting. You know, I'm aware of these macro forces at play, and just like Wayne was touching on at the top of the hour, I'm seeing that in real time. So it was exciting.
I want to focus in on your mindset too, because I have a feeling this would relate to many other folks that could be watching this: landlord, commercial real estate, building owner. Are you stressed about this space? Like, is it like when you're looking around the world and watching these shifts happen that Wayne was addressing? Like, are you feeling stressed? Like, what am I going to do with this investment? And therefore, it's almost like a timing thing that at that point of that introduction to say, hey, we might have a solution. Are you like, put me in your shoes? Like, what's going on through your mind as a leader in the space?
Yes, stress is one way I would describe how I feel when I think about the office sector and some of the portfolio, because you know, as I touched on in my brief bio, I have a risk background, a real estate risk. So I've seen how things go bad, and I know what happens when things go bad. And you know, this office building, this piece of commercial real estate isn't unique. It's just like every other one that has has bank debt on it, and tenants wanting different things out of their environment. They want shorter terms, they want more flexibility, and so it still does stress me out because loans are eventually coming due. You know, we were with rising interest rates, your financial covenants that you have to adhere to are really being pushed up to the line. And the timing of this email and I guess IWG's new offering was perfect, because we were able to get ahead of some of the worst case scenario, which would be you're left with a floor or two in a low-rise office building that are completely vacant, and the loan is coming due at the end of the year, and you're stuck, and you either have to recapitalize it, or, worst case scenario, hand back the keys. You never want to have that, especially when you have partners. And in this case, the partners were mostly friends and family. So you want everyone to win. And I thought this opportunity with IWG was a way to accomplish that.
I love it. Raymond, with your operational background, and we start looking at the partnership opportunity, are you starting to see how is the synergy working with how you would operationalize a business and how you're going to operationalize a business through a partnership? Like, what is your evaluation process going like when you're exploring what this opportunity could look like?
I think that there's for lack of a better term, there's the vibe check first and foremost. It's who are you going to be working with? And honestly, like our correspondence with you, Jeff, was really great, and also the patience. So and as Corey was alluding to, our agreement, from start to actually get signed and for us to start building, it took many months. And within that, there was I think a lot of vetting of each other. I'm sure IWG was vetting us, but then also, we're vetting them. And so it was kind of, by the time we signed the agreement, it already felt like we've been working together for a while. And I know Corey was leading that communication, and, very stood firm on like, okay, we have a good feeling about where this is going to go. So I think, kind of to answer your question on the first level, it's just who are you working with? And you want to be working with people that like you feel good about. And also the brand IWG, of course, we had to do our homework and do the deep dive. And I mean, this is the, if not the leading co-working space company in the world. So having kind of this corporate backing and a track record, made it a lot easier for us to get in bed with them and start this.
Yeah, Ray, you nailed it with that comment. I just want to add, Nick, to your previous question about, why did I return the email and set up a meeting? I think a big component of that was understanding IWG's expertise and the goodwill that they're bringing to the table. If we were going to go at this alone and go rogue and have our own co-working space, how are we going to do that? We don't have the back end. We don't have the knowledge and know-how. We're an unknown quantity. It's everything that we would need to be successful that we don't possess ourselves. IWG had. So it was really attractive.
Corey, what did you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Raymond.
I was just gonna say, add to that, operationalizing things. That's exactly where my mind went. Of what? Okay, we can think at a high level, but it's also my job to kind of look what's next. Foot forward in front of the next foot in front of the next. What do we have to actually do? And it only became feasible and viable to say, because going through everything that you would need to start your own business or your own company. And if we were going to start our own co-working space, there's so many things layered in that's just not what Corey and I wanted to sign up for. So on the operationalized front, knowing that there is an operation to come in while we provide the infrastructure to be able to operate the business, that was a huge thing for us, because Corey and I both don't have time, nor is it really our desire or passion to do this, to start our own co-working business.
Right. Corey, what is something that could have tripped you up and made you say no in the process, or what did you have to overcome? Because you were in the pipeline for a long time, and part of that, I would imagine, you're walking up to the edge, and you're like, maybe we're going to do this, and then you're like, well, wait a second, let me walk it backwards. But what could have prevented you from moving forward that you had to overcome, that you did overcome?
Yeah, there were times when I just didn't think that there was a deal, and it wasn't until we had a kind of a brainstorming session and creatively thought about how we could appropriately structure this business and relationship with the partner and landlord. The landlord was not interested in executing the partnership agreement on behalf of the entity and having a tenant that receives rent based on a percentage split. There are the partners that they have to answer to, kind of, I think, just as important, if not more important, they're lenders that we have to answer to. And so what we decided to do that checked all the boxes was create a new single purpose entity, a Texas LLC that signed a market rate lease with the landlord and then signed a partnership agreement with IWG. And so we this way the landlord got guaranteed rent and a lease that was bona fide. IWG got what they wanted with an excited partner who had legal access to the space. We made sure that everything we were doing was totally defensible and above board. We previewed this potential structure with our lender, with the partners in the owning entity of the actual real estate, and then of course had to kind of tweak some things in the partnership agreement to account for this kind of the modified structure. So that was kind of the biggest item and potential deal breaker that we were able to overcome. And yes, it took some time, but we got there. And once that agreement was signed at the end of the year, we were really off to the races.
Jeff, I want to go into your shoes now, because I think it's important to understand how both sides are working in this. Obviously, the more partnership agreements that you guys have, the more you learn on what are some of the obstacles that you have to help coach through or educate through or address throughout the process. As you're going through this process with Corey and Raymond, what's going on your side, and how are you facilitating the relationship from the IWG side?
Absolutely. And, it's interesting because as Corey and Ray pointed out, this started in March of last year. These gentlemen were probably one of the first, call it 10 potential opportunities that we had engaged with. So it was early days with our program as well. And so there was a lot of learning going on in terms of not only what our partners were interested in and how we could help them, but things like what Corey just described in terms of forming a single asset entity and making this work from that structure were certainly new to me at the time. So for me, the biggest learning along the way was understanding that at the core, we had a shared vision of what we wanted to accomplish. They had an amazing space that we all felt very confident would be a tremendous asset to the IWG portfolio and a great new location for us in San Antonio. So that was sort of the cornerstone of the whole thing, is we knew that was there, and we knew we all wanted to make it work. So as Corey and Ray and the team worked through that process, it was just a matter of me and my team making sure that we were providing the best direction, the best advice that we could in terms of what the cost might look like for that fit out, what the revenue ramp up would look like, what the output was going to be. Because all those things obviously were very important to them as they were trying to work through the other components. So to me, especially early days, it was really helpful to have just tremendous partners and a nice win that we all sort of knew what we wanted to accomplish, and we're moving in that direction. Having kind of worked through this many times over now at this point, it really comes down to what we offer is similar in terms of the partnership structure and the way that we are approaching the business, the way that we do due diligence, the way that we help a partner to understand what the financial output of a new location would be. But where it goes from there really requires us to do a lot of listening and understanding of the partner's specific situation, what's going on in their business, what's going on in their portfolio, because every single partnership deal is different, and every single partner's sort of pain points are different. And so it really becomes critical for us to not only be able to share the vision of what we're trying to accomplish as a company. That's interesting. But what's truly fascinating is figuring out how that works for the partner. Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to accomplish is a 10 to 15 year plus relationship that's going to evolve. And the best way to kind of get us moving in that direction is to really have a good understanding of how we can help the partner, and not just how the partner can sort of help IWG.
Jeff, does any question surprise you at this point, or are all of the questions now almost the same? Or like, are you seeing a lot of similarities in any of the hurdles that a partnership possibility has to get over?
It's different in every scenario. Sometimes it's the same question framed a different way, right? And so I've learned long into this that you never assume that the question that one partner is asking, even though it may sound very similar to the same question another partner is asking, they're coming from different places, they're coming from different situations, they're coming from different challenges. So I wouldn't say I think I've heard it all, because I guarantee tomorrow I'll hear a question I've not heard before. But I think that the most important thing is we just can't make assumptions, right? This is something that is very different for each partner. And we need to approach it that way, because otherwise we're doing that partner a disservice.
Wayne, when I'm listening to Corey and Raymond go through their journey on how they went about becoming a partner, the last thing that you hear is we were trying to figure out a way to get the deal done. Mm-hmm. When you go backwards and think about your vision for how this would work, was it going to be deal making and flexibility with the landlords, commercial real estate professionals, building owners? Like, is this the outcome that you expected at this point in the game?
I think we're just getting started, Nick. I mean, when you take a look, I really look at this as the construct of a great marriage. There's a need on both sides today. We're seeing this dynamic shift in the industry. And I have to say, every time I have a chance to spend time with Raymond, Corey, our other partners, it has a tremendous impact on me personally and professionally to ensure that the investment they've made drives the success they're looking for. Right? It's really critical. Right? What we're seeing is demand continue to grow in the need for great flexible workspace. If you think about it, there's this real transition that's taking place. We're seeing the demand for traditional office space drop extraordinarily quickly. The demand for flex space and for access to space in a very dynamic way, and frankly, something as simply as provisioning online, which was unheard of really a couple of years ago. Yet that has grown in unprecedented fashion. Right? So when I take a look at the demand for flexible workspace, the demand for companies and people who call us directly into our IWG Direct or search online via our website or via an aggregator site or brokerage site, the number was 1 million. We received 1 million inquiries a year pre-pandemic. It's really extraordinary. If you think about the number of people that were looking for space, there's never really an implied need for space. When people are looking for space, it's pretty explicit. And then we had our inquiry base topped 1 million a year globally in January and February 2020. Those are the annualized numbers. If you look where we are today, the number's grown to 1.4 million. So the demand continues to shift. And when I take a look at where we're at today, by Q4 of 2023, we will be annualizing our run rate to add 1,000 locations of Regus Spaces HQ Signature in North America alone. That is the annualized ramp number. And what's interesting is with the amount of white space we see across the United States and in Canada, just based on the demand principles we're seeing and the need we're seeing, we can continue to add 1,000 locations a year for the next number of years, and frankly, continue to see the demand required for further growth. If we grow from the 2,000 locations that we're forecasted to be at here by the end of this year, that's signed and opened across our network in North America, growing that number to 10,000, frankly, moves the overall absorption rate in commercial real estate from where it is today, roughly about 3.8%, to only about 7%. And most analysts are predicting that flexible workspace will represent 30% of the commercial real estate portfolio by 2030. So the numbers in terms of growth is very, very strong. So where we look at where we're at today, I think we're still early days, and frankly, there's a lot of work that we will continue to put into to make it as easy as possible for partners like Raymond and Corey to commit to their first location, make the investment, convert to a great, vibrant, productive, aspirational, well-designed Regus or Spaces or HQ location. And then from there, help them continue to grow across their portfolio as the need continues to grow. Like when I think about things, where I focus every single day is how do I help Raymond and Corey? So how do I reduce the barrier to entry? And that comes down to how do we help reduce the capital investment that's required to convert their current space into a brilliant Regus or Spaces location? How do we help support them with all the tools they need in order to help them reduce their construction costs? How do we help reduce the amount of time to move from signing that master client agreement to opening their doors and frankly starting to generate income, right? And then from there, move towards covering their operating costs and then driving ultimately, frankly, a premium on what could have been earned in the traditional conventional leasing market. So it's all about removing barriers today, and that is continuing to manage our services, our systems, and then also come up with new formats. Like one of the areas that we're looking at today is we see a real need across formats. So for example, we have some brilliant new partner locations that we've opened up that are 20,000 square feet. We have some amazing locations that we've opened up that are 7,000 square feet. And those are boutique opportunities to really drop into neighborhoods in different cities to continue to support the need of this 15-minute city. And some of the things we're looking at doing is how can we further introduce greater technologies to support a lower staffing model, right? As we know that staffing is a significant element on a cost structure that's required, because this is an operating business. This is hospitality within Workspace. So how do we help reduce the overall operating costs? How do we help reduce the capital commitments? How do we help our partners be able to turn to their lenders or their banks and demonstrate that this is a great, viable investment opportunity to help them underpin the investment of their construction costs or their ongoing investment in their building? So there are a number of areas that we're looking at. We break them out to frankly help reduce every single barrier to entry and help our partners open as quickly as possible to support the client demand that continues to accelerate.
I have a follow-up question for Corey and Raymond in that, but I want to make sure that we keep putting up our questions as they come live. Does IWG see maintaining the same gross dollar per square foot when the flexible office space market reaches 30%? Will competition drive down the price per square foot? Wayne?
I think it's a good question, but it's unpredictable. Believe me, I will be thrilled when we get to a place with 30%. Frankly, if we can get to 10%, it's a remarkable achievement, just because of the nature of where we're at today at 3.8%. So do we think we can maintain the same gross dollar per square foot? I'm not sure. But what we have seen is the way we've been able to monetize space through density and design helps drive a significant increase in that gross dollar per square foot. Right? We've been in this game for 34 years, and in 34 years, you do a lot of great things, you make a lot of mistakes. Right? So And we've absolutely mastered the principles of design when we look at workspace and where we look at how companies and people look to utilize space. So I'll tell you, we're constantly looking to try to optimize that gross dollar per square foot. Where it will go, I think is still to be determined, and that will just come down to the level of competitive force that's in place and the amount of space that's in market. But our goal is to continue to optimize it to make sure we drive the biggest returns for our partners.
Corey and or Raymond, I mean, you hear all the data that Wayne has put out on this discussion, and all the data obviously is swinging towards what is the why you, why now, and why you would actually partner with an IWG. Did that data help swing your decision? And did the fear of missing out, knowing that this is going to continue to grow and the demand is there, did that influence you to say yes when you did?
You're muted, Corey.
Sorry, guys. I didn't have, no, there wasn't necessarily a FOMO component to it. I kind of took the approach as if it made sense for this location at this time, it makes sense, and let's march forward. And if it doesn't, then don't try to force anything. But those macro trends and some of the numbers that Wayne just cited absolutely were top of mind when making the decision, because the trend it's a clear one, and like Wayne was saying, it's not just starting as of 2023. This has been a long-term trend that is further accelerated from some macro events like the pandemic. I think another really helpful data point when it came us ultimately making our decision to partner with IWG was taking a look at the current roster of IWG locations in San Antonio. There is a clear need. If there's, I think at the time, maybe 7 locations, and the lowest occupancy was like 83%. The numbers speak for themselves. So that was probably the most impactful, because there's the global macro trends that everyone is affected by in some way, shape, or form. But the degree in which they're affected, it really varies by market. And I thought in our specific market and our specific location, there was a need, and we wanted to be the ones to fill that need with IWG's partnership.
Raymond, anything you want to add on that?
Once you get in the game, you really can't help but notice all the other options out there. And then, once you, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, Regis, Spaces, HQ, you see them all around. But then you also start noticing, other co-working options in your cities or wherever you live. And as Corey was saying, like, we had to do it when it was right for us. And thankfully, when it was right for us, was more on, I guess, like the earlier side or where we're at now. And I'm really happy about that, because it's going to take time for our center to reach maturity. And that's when we'll really start to see kind of like the profits and the real revenue potential come through. But that also takes time. And it does feel good to be on this side of the coin to say, all right, well, we got it open. And now we can start to move towards maturity and kind of, beat some of the other centers that are in the pipeline. So that does help, and it does feel good where we're at now.
Wayne, one of the things as I think about flex situations, it's not just the 15-minute city or how do we equip staff with the tools to actually go into a space on a flex basis. It's also for a company to be able to have the flexibility to work with one partner, one company, and be able to go into multiple spaces depending on where that company has employees based or where leadership is traveling to. And I could look at our company as an example. We're in 23 different states. I travel a lot. Something like this ends up being something that's very appealing to me. Is the next level of flex and the next level of occupancy going to turn into how many businesses are occupying a single space? Is there going to be verbiage changes as it relates back to this industry?
Well, I think what's going to happen in this industry is the clear winner is the flexible workspace provider that has the largest network, and it's a combination of physical and digital experience. So to give everybody an idea who's joined us today, we partner with 82% of the Fortune 500 companies globally. They choose IWG as their flexible workspace provider of choice, and there's a number of reasons, but one of the real reasons is those organizations, they're looking for ubiquity. Right? When they hire a new team of developers in San Antonio and they're based in Palo Alto, they don't want to start spending time researching where they will deploy and help support and house their people. They call IWG, right? That's a real critical piece, and that we have a master services agreement and we're able to move forward. And that is beyond just the US. It's across 125 countries around the world and close to 2,000 cities. Right? They're looking for that level of convenience and that level of ubiquity, turning to one contract, one provider, and be able to make sure that they can support their team members within 24 hours with great workspace. It's actually almost become part of an organization's induction package, because what's happening today is companies have really shifted where their talent pool is being sourced beyond just the city right in today, their corporate headquarters. Companies are looking for the best talent, whether it's in the same city, state, or country many times. And part of that type of cultural environment and identity is ensuring that people have a great to be able to work in brilliant space that supports them, and help support the company's need to ensure that there's secure bandwidth and that their data is secure, right? So organizations are leaning on flexible workspace providers to ensure that their team members can leave their house and be able to access great space. And that level of convenience is absolutely critical. So organizations, they turn to us for their team member needs and their organization's needs. And if you think about it, on top of that, they're rationalizing the real estate portfolio, because moving from a clunky 10-year lease that requires millions of dollars of investment to build and manage, when it's not their core competency, is becoming a thing of the past. A lease is office space is no longer just a capital cost. It's becoming an operating cost, right? And it's becoming fluid and dynamic, in which can be flexed up and down based on where the company transitions. So I think those pieces have been really critical. And for us, we see that, frankly, as a real need to continue to grow. Like we're constantly speaking with our clients, and we continue to see the demand elements come in that help us try to pinpoint where the next locations need to grow. And Raymond and Corey, you asked a good question, Nick, earlier. And Raymond and Corey, they've now launched, they've opened up, and we were working through our process since early 2023. If you think about it, we launched this partnership growth strategy in really March 2022. So it's been early, and I think maybe in 2022 actually when we started working together. If you look at where we are today, one of the next big significant efforts that we're putting in is actually working and continuing to provide a greater subset of data for our partners, where we can geotag and understand more what the demand principles are, so we can help support with better data to help align at the right location as well.
I want to go round robin on our final question. Raymond, I'm going to start with you. There's someone that's watching this. They're sitting on the sideline. They're going through the exact same process you and your brother did of making a decision whether this is the right fit for them or not. How would you advise them? What do you want them to know about this opportunity that might give them a tool to overcome a fear, or to make a decision as they're going through this process?
A couple of things, but at the very baseline and beginning, I think you got to go what feels right. And that also is, it's unique to like where the building is at, if you have a good read on the market. So follow what feels right. But I think something that really helped Corey and I, and that we had to learn, and I'm really happy to be talking to all of you to give you this, because it was a critical thing for our successes, is you do not have to buy, and you do not have to wait on IWG for everything. They're a big corporation, and there's a lot of levels that go through. And what we learned through the process is that you have a lot of the autonomy and power to build a center the way that you would like it, that fits within the guidelines and the standards. But you do have creative license in how you build it, and you can really take ownership of your space. We waited a lot because we thought we needed to have this information in order to start making decisions. But the truth is, and when we spoke to Wayne on a kind of to prep for this call, I think that's exactly the message that they want to give out, is that as long as you're building a great client experience, that you have the support of IWG, and they're trying to give you the tools in order to do that. So don't be afraid to get on it and build it the way you want to build it. So that's just a couple of things.
Appreciate it. Corey, same question to you.
Sure. I think what would be very helpful, what would have been helpful, and what I hope is helpful for everyone listening who's considering is the fear of the unknown and the inherent risks of that unknown. So I encourage everyone who's considering partnering with IWG, to do your homework. Make sure you have a full grasp of the resources necessary to build, open, and run the center. You want to use IWG's work product because they'll provide you with their estimated revenue figures, et cetera, but make it your own. Temper the revenue figures and ensure the deal still pencils, because all markets are different. Uncontrollable macro factors are at play, et cetera. I think another piece of information is kind of what to expect. You're going to work with your sales team and their legal team, onboarding, and then once the agreement is signed, you're assigned a new construction team, people you haven't met before. It's not that the people or people that you are working with are unreachable, but these are dedicated folks to help you build out your center. Once the center is open, then you're given a relationship manager who's your main point of contact going forward. There's going to be a receptionist or two, salesperson or two, and those are your new team, but you kind of talk to one person, and there is kind of one voice. Opening the center is easy if you have time or money or both. In our case, we didn't really have either of those things. You can be as hands-on or as hands-off as you want, but your decision will dictate how much time and money your build-out's going to cost. So we were extremely hands-on, and we fit out our center for under $11 a square foot, which includes all the IT infrastructure, FF&E, absolutely everything. The pencils that were at the front desk and computer, everything. Granted, we had a great bones to work with. We didn't put up a lot of walls. We didn't tear any down. So we had that working for us, but we were extremely hands-on, and because of that, we got it done on time and under budget. And I think the last piece of advice I'd give anyone considering is, you work in tandem with your IWG team. I love the analogy that Wayne gave, that this is a marriage, because it really is. And when it comes to your build out team or construction phase team, manage them, because cost overruns and delays really only negatively affect you. And it's not that they're not working hard or anything else, or they don't want to do a good job, but people are busy. The vendors were extremely busy. At the time we were going through that process and phase, the IWG team members were extremely busy, and they were just, hiring like crazy to provide the human resources necessary to keep up with the growth. But we learned after, a month or maybe a month and a half of some growing pains that we need to stay on top of everything and really help quarterback and control the process, because ultimately it's to our benefit, or detriment.
Love it. Great insights. Jeff, to someone that's watching this, what pushes them over the edge? What do you want them to know?
Well, I think the most important thing is just to engage. As we mentioned earlier, so Corey and Raymond were some of our earlier partners. My team alone has signed over 97 partners up to this point. North America, I think we're nearing 400. So we've seen a lot of different scenarios. We've seen a lot of the different challenges our partners are facing, and we can help work through it. This may or may not be a great solution for a partner that's out there listening right now. But the only way for us to figure that out together is for us to have some conversation, for us to learn about what's going on with their business, with their portfolio, with their specific building, for us to do some due diligence and help them to see what the financial output of an IWG center would look like within their space. From there, clearly, we need to help work together to understand what the cost and the fit out might look like for a specific space so that they can understand what their ROI is going to look like over 10 years and over the long term. So I would just say, when in doubt, let's talk. And if we talk, we can figure out together if it's something that would make sense. Because at the end of the day, our commitment is to really trying to kind of make sure that marriage of IWG and our partners is going to be a good one. And the only way to do that is for us to all have a full understanding of what the relationship looks like, what the commitments are from each side, and then work through the process to make sure that it's going to be a good long-term relationship.
Love it. Wayne, final
said,
2 minutes. Take us home. Tell us the why you, why now.
It's easy. We're here to support you. Really, truly, we want every one of our partners to make the best decision for themselves and their investment. That's what it comes down to. And frankly, we're here to help them, at a minimum, have all the options on the table. That piece is really critical. And we're happy to work alongside each and every partner, regardless of the outcome, to help ensure that they have everything they need to understand what the monetization opportunity is and what they can do with their product and what they can do with their asset. Many partners, these investments are significant investments personally, and then also within a small professional group. I mean, Corey and Raymond mentioned it earlier on about the fact that many of their partners, many times we're dealing with friends and family. Those are all critical people you want to support. And so we're here to support every one of our partners. And I'll add one last piece. I've been in this business now for 9 years, but it's a brilliant business. If you look at some of our locations that we opened 30 years ago, they're still open. Why? Because they become the lifeblood of our clients, right? From a work relationship perspective, drive great return on that capital. So for us, this partnership opportunity is critical because, frankly, we need to continue to grow to meet the surge in demand. And the best way to do that is with great partners like Raymond, Corey, our other 400 partners that we've just signed in the last 16 months, and as it continues to grow. So we're here to support you. We're here to answer your questions, and we appreciate the time.
Well, look, guys, wonderful conversation. Corey and Raymond, what a wonderful story. I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. Hopefully we can do another touch base at some point and talk about how the journey continues. For Wayne and Jeff and Raymond and Corey, I'm Nick. This was Meet IWG's Partners. Hopefully everybody that showed up today, we have well over 100 of you watching live. You got value out of it. Reach out to your contact if you have follow-up questions beyond this. Thanks, everybody, for a great conversation. Take care.
Thank you.